everyone. Welcome to the Money Master HQ podcast, where we look to simplify your finances and amplify your growth. I'm your host, Shihan Sheriff, where we break down money, mindset, and mastery so you can grow without burning out. Today's guest is someone many of you will deeply relate to, Lorraine Lawson, who is a published author, a science educator, and a lifelong learner with over 25 years of teaching experience. She's actually proof that you don't have to quit your job overnight to build a meaningful, profitable, creative life. Lorraine, welcome to the Money Master HQ podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure, and I'm really looking forward to this episode. Lauren, before we get into books, business, and side hustles, a quick one to warm us up. If you suddenly had a full year off with zero financial stress, what's the first thing you do and where would you go?
I do actually have a year off coming up, so it's a reality for me where I'm not going to work for a full year. And I'm planning to travel and do potentially a book tour and visit places around the world and also in Australia where I live.
That's interesting. I never knew that. I mean, I did a ton of research about you, but I never knew that this was coming. So I'm glad that's actually a reality. All right. So if I'm to ask you, for those meeting for the first time, how would you usually introduce yourself? Is it any different to how I introduced you?
No, I'm a teacher by day, so I do have a day job, and I also spend most of my time, the rest of my time, writing my books and try to get to the gym and stay active. So pretty busy, but yeah, teacher and writer sums me up pretty good.
All right, cool. So let's start off, Lauren. Many people dream of writing a book, right? I mean, I've heard it like as many as 80% of people in their lifetime think of writing a book, but it's only a fraction of them who actually end up writing a book. So what really triggered you to, write the book? Was there anything in particular in your life that took place that resulted in you getting that thought and then actioning it?
Yes, there is, because I sat down and decided what's going to happen when I retire. So that's going to be hopefully in a couple of years, which is when I've got my full year off. And I thought, what am I going to do beyond retirement? And so I worked backwards from there and came up with a long list of things that I'd like to do. And one of them was writing a book. And I thought, well, if I want to retire, I can't wait until I'm retired before I learn how to write a book. I better just do it now. So that's how I tend to work my goals, is I just set a future goal and then Ruby, start that section. Sorry.
No worries at all.
I set a future goal and then I work back to my current reality and I just put it in place. So I was never someone that my whole life said, oh, I've got that book in me that's got to come out. I've got to write it. I just made a list of things that I want to do when I retire, particularly things that are going to bring an income, preferably a passive income. And one of the things on the list was write a book. So then I promptly went and said, okay, well, let me write a book. What am I going to write a book about? And I also thought I would just self-publish. It did not occur to me that I would go through a publisher. I don't know why, but I just never even thought about it. And so I wrote a book, and within, I don't know, I started in May last year. Where are we now? We're now in January. So I started writing the book in May and I published it in September. That's my first book. And I basically just decided this is something I want to do, something I want to learn. And it was another world out there in preparation for something that I'd like to do in the future. Does that make sense?
Yes. Just a quick question. From the first moment that you got this thought of writing a book, to actually start writing the book in May, what time period are we talking about? When
Deciding I wanted to write a book was in April last year. So I started writing. I wrote my first draft in April, actually, because I took my 2 weeks of school holidays. I went to an island close to my hometown and sat on the island for 2 weeks and wrote the draft of the first book. And yeah, like I say, I published the book in September.
So from production, you went in no time. I mean, that's very fast for anyone. I mean, for many of the authors whom I've spoken to, interacted with on various communities on Facebook and so on, I think they've lived through the idea of just having the thought of writing a book for at least a year in most cases. So you're pretty awesome. That's exceptional. Just within a few weeks, you got to writing the book. That's incredible. All right. Would you like to talk through about the book? What's in it? What could readers expect by reading it?
Published. I can show you, although this is a podcast, people may not see it. It's called How to Run Easy, right, by Lorraine Lawson. It's a book for beginner runners, so it's not very high level. It's just instructional, how to get active, how to stay motivated, and how to run easy. So within 10 weeks, you'll run 5 kilometers. And it didn't come from nowhere. I didn't start writing the book just like randomly picked a topic. I've been teaching beginner runners for 10, 15 years. So I know I'm an expert I know what I'm talking about. But the How to Run Easy book was a practice run for me because I thought I need to understand the whole world of writing because there's a lot involved. The actual sitting down and writing is quite nice, but the editing is it's a nightmare. And then you've got to format the book. Then you've got to market it. So there's a whole heap of things that sits behind the actual book. So I thought, okay, let me write a book about something that I'm an expert in. I actually had plenty of notes and things that I used to give to my beginner runners. So I didn't start from absolutely nothing. I started from a level of experience. But the book that I'm busy writing at the moment, so I started writing that one in September when I published the other one, is taking me longer because it's on a different topic. So the current book, which is like I call it my real book, is on energy, like sunlight and how it helps the human body in terms of health and longevity.
That's nice. So it complements your first book, basically.
Sorry?
It complements your first book, basically. All right. So for anyone interested to get access or to have access to your book, how would they be able to get it? Is it available online for sale or is it something that's digital?
Yes. So anyone can just type in the topic that says how to run easy, Lorraine Lawson, and they'll find it straight away. Lorraine Lawson author.com is my website, so that will take them there as well. Yeah.
Awesome. So, as somebody who spent 25 years in education, Lorraine, how did teaching shape the way you approach writing, learning, and even business?
Well, I think we decide to go into teaching because we want to help people. And this is just an extension of that. It's that you've got something that you would like to share with others, and putting it down on paper is one way to share your expertise or your advice. So that's probably how the teaching and the writing it's just all the same. And I don't know what else I can say there, sorry.
No problem. Did you have any fears at all when starting to write and self-publish the book on your own? If so, what were those fears? Would you like to talk us through about that?
Well, the reason why I did the How to Run Easy book was as a practice run. So in a way, it took away all the pressure and the having to be successful, it was just, for me, it was just, let me just get my processes, my timelines and things in place, because then that alleviates all the stress that when I have a real book that I'm actually really trying to get across, I have those things in place. So I think that's probably where I started from, thinking that, and it's the same with my retirement, is you gotta go to the end point and come back to the present. And that end point, if you don't know where you're going, then you're just floundering along and you're not really getting anything done. So once I made a decision that I was going to publish that book, I just sat down and got it done. I just had timelines. I was very dedicated. I'm pretty good at doing the big blocks of time and just getting stuff done. And with the education and the teaching, I'm a real paper person. I would like to just have everything in order. It's like if I could spend my whole day organizing, I'd do that. And so my personality really lends itself to being organized and being just, when you start something, you finish it. I am a beginner runner coach, but I also run ultra marathons. And people go, "Oh, Lorraine, that's like, wow, didn't think you could run that far and that long." And I go, "Well, it's because I have a training program and I follow it and I stick with it and I see it through." So it's not really got to do with how intelligent you are, how much work do you want to put into it. Yeah.
Those are some golden nuggets that you just mentioned there. You reminded me of one of the 7 habits of highly effective people that Stephen Covey talks about. Keep the end in mind. And you also did mention finish what you start. I think that's so important. And the other thing that you importantly mentioned is being organized. I think I really loved that part of the segment. All right, let's talk strategy for a bit, Lorraine. So instead of quitting your job, you actually chose to side hustle. Why was that, you think, was a smarter move?
Was again learning new skills. So one of the things that I sat down when I decided, okay, when am I going to retire? So this was that was about 5 years before I thought I was going to retire. And I thought, well, I've got to get my finances sorted. And as part of that, I realized just how little I know about how my money works. Where does it come from? Where does it go? Have I got enough? And so I literally spent, must have been about 3 or 4 months, if not more, sorting my finances. That, like, I can only just do one thing at a time. So this was a few years back now. So I set a budget, I checked where every cent comes from, etc. And then from there, I came up with the idea that I need to establish other income streams into the future. So to do that, I have to have qualifications. So I thought, okay, well, I'm interested. Well, I'm not really a money person and I don't know enough. So maybe I need to learn more. So a friend of mine said, "Oh, she's going to work at H&R Block." No, you've got, I think the one that I work at is a franchise. They're tax agents in Australia, and you can physically go to visit them in a building and get your taxes done for the year. And I thought, oh, that would be good if I know how to do my own taxes. So let me do a course with them. I got a scholarship through the woman in Cairns. She knew me, my name, because my name goes around town because I do the running. I'm in the running community. And so she knew who I was. And when I said, yeah, I'm interested, she said, I'll give you a scholarship. I said, oh, thank you. So I did that. So I studied. That was hard for me. I'm not a money person, so I really struggled, and I studied for hours in the mornings, like similar to what I do now. I write for about 2 hours in the morning before I go to work. Back then, I was studying for 2 hours in the morning to get this qualification to go and work for her, which I've done. So I've now worked for her for 2 years, and she's happy to have me back again. So the tax season in Australia goes from July through to October. And so I work my full day at work, so 8:30 to 2:30, and then I drive straight to my second job, which is my tax agent job. I love that job. It's so much fun. And I work there from 3 o'clock to 6, 7 o'clock at night. And I do that for those 4 months. So it's full on. But all the money I earn from there, I've got a separate bank account, everything separate. All the money goes straight into that bank account and it gets accumulated. I don't spend a cent of that money. Well, I have spent it now because I use it for my writing. And out of that bank account, the only money that ever went out was into an ETF that I set up, which is another one of my passive income streams. So, I've got to put some money into that to make money from it. And so that was originally what I started, was to work at H&R Block to have money to put into my investments, which is what I did until I started the writing spree. And I thought, I'm going to need a bit of money for this. And so I'm now using that money for that as well.
As always says, proximity is power, and you got into this community through that. You got the scholarship. What an interesting story. So for anyone who is not willing to get into a community, not willing to ask for help, I think that's just a quick reminder. Now, for listeners thinking about side hustles, Lorraine, what should they prioritize first? Is it flexibility? Is it income or skill alignment? What do you think?
Well, for me, it was skill because I couldn't get the job without having done the training for it. But you've got to look in the long run, is the investing those hours and hours I spent studying in the mornings. I started, I think, in about April of that year, and I was studying I was more than 2 hours a day because I had to do quite a bit. So I think skill is important if you're trying to get a paid position, which is the H&R tax agent job for me. But skill is important even for the writing. Nobody's making me write a book. Nobody's saying you have to do this. That's all on me just because I'm interested in it. But there's a huge amount I need to learn about how to write books and how to publish and how to format. And I don't know any of that. So, yeah, you do have to invest a lot of your time in learning what you need, identify what you want, and then learn what you need. That's an ongoing process. I'm still obviously learning plenty about the publishing and writing books. I mean, I'm by no means an expert, but it's another world, and you have to pick stuff that you actually enjoy. So to me, it's fun. I just love all the writing. I'm just being a teacher, being a scientist. I think, yeah, the type of writing I do, my editor constantly complain to me that stop, your teacher voice. So I learn how to get better at things through the skill. And then the other thing, I think, if you want to do a side hustle at the same time as working, which is what I do, even though it's only 4 months of the year, you really have to organize your timing, because to work from 8:30 until 7 o'clock at night, that's a full day of work. I have to make sure over the weekends that I've got my food cooked up. I do a big cook up on the weekend. So I have my food for the entire week. I have healthy meals in my fridge. I literally in the morning just take out my food for that day and go to work. And being organized, I think, alleviates that pressure and that because you get tired. So how are you going to get around that? You need to get enough sleep. I'm big on sleep. Sleep enough and eat well. You do have to have the exercise in there. That's good, actually, to move around a bit. I struggle with that during those 4 months when I work at H&R Block, because I get home so late and then I am tired. I want to go to bed. So my timetable worked a little bit different last year, but the year before, the first year I worked for them, I had an hour break between my work day job and my side hustle job. And I literally, in a small town, so everything's really close, right? So to go from work back home and then back to work wasn't very big in travel distance. So what I would do is I would drive home, I'd lie in the bed and I would put on my yoga nidra. Have you ever done yoga nidra?
Yoga
It's done brilliant.
is what? Is it something different to yoga?
It's different to yoga. You literally just lie down
Okay.
in a comfortable, relaxed position. So you just I just lie on my back with my arms next to my side. And then I just listen to a YouTube video. There's millions of them out there. I found a woman I really like. So I always listen to her. She comes up probably first, which is about everyone because she's very popular. And it's called Yoga Nidra. And it puts you into a meditative rest state where she basically just does a full body scan. So you're just listening and you're just relaxing everything. And it's gorgeous. So I normally would come home from work because I don't even eat. I just go straight, lie down. And for 20 minutes, I put on the Yoga Nidra. And I wake up and it's like I've just slept for 3 hours or 6 hours. It's like it's very refreshing to do. So that's how I got around it the first year that I was working at H&R Block in terms of managing my energy levels and my time. But the second year I was going straight from work to H&R Block, and I realized then food becomes really important. Being properly hydrated and properly fed with decent food is really the only way I could manage my time.
Very interesting stuff, Lorraine. Really impressed with how you manage a lot of these things, and I think there's a lot for us all to learn from you. Now, moving on to my next question. So before I ask the next question, there's a habit that I've got. Like every morning, I listen to something called the Growth Day app by Brendan Bashard. He's one of my favorite mentors. I don't know if you know him, but okay, great. So he did mention a number of times that even when he started to self-publish his books, that a lot of authors, they actually end up being bankrupt, believe it or not. And that's because, when you start publishing, it's the passion about trying to make your book the best, trying to market it all over the place, spending a ton of stuff on different tools, on formatting it, designing it, right? But it seems like your journey has been very different. You've been financially very well disciplined. So, any lessons or mistakes, even that you've made, that you think could help somebody who is looking to get into self publishing?
It is expensive. It's way more expensive than I realized. And the reality is, you may not be making any money out of your book. So you got to come with the right attitude. If you're not willing to put in the marketing, then nobody's going to know you're out there. Nobody knows who you are. I live in a little town. Like I said, a lot of people around town know me, but that doesn't take me anywhere in terms of publishing my book, really. People don't, even my local people wouldn't be buying my book if they didn't know that I wrote one. So it is an expensive venture, and I think it's probably worth sitting down and doing your budget to decide where your money's going to go, because you're paying for everything. And if you don't have some saved up money that you can actually use to pay, well, how are you going to pay for this stuff? So I was fortunate because I had a kitty of money sitting there that was just going into my investments that I then sidetracked to the writing, because just for an editor, that's in Australian dollars, about 2,000 Australian dollars. And I only did a developmental edit for my first book. I did not do the full. There's 3 edits required. I did 2 of them, and that cost me about 2,000 Australian dollars. And then I've paid people to help me learn how to write. I pay to be in what's called a writing room, which I find is quite useful. It's very, you log into Zoom in the morning, everyone says good morning and what they're doing. Well, I say good morning, everyone says good afternoon, everyone else says good afternoon, because Elsewhere in the world, I mean, I'm always ahead of everyone. It's like, it's morning for me and it's afternoon or night for you. So the writing room's been very useful in terms of just blocking my time in the morning. So 2 hours that I write, log into Zoom, and that costs money. So all of those things cost money. So I think investing the energy and the time in realizing the scope of what writing requires, rather than just, I've got a nice idea, I'll put it on, on a piece of paper and, put it in a Word document and publish it. It's not quite that simple. I think for me, what I'm working on now is building an audience. Like, if nobody knows you're out there, nobody's going to buy your stuff. So I spend a lot of my time when I'm not writing, and this is often in my afternoons. I spend a lot of time trying to get onto summits and sharing, information with people to get their names onto my email list. Because once you've got an email list, you can actually have an audience. So my goal for this year is to build my email list to 1,000 subscribers by the time I publish my current book I'm writing, which will be, if life goes well, it will be in July, but at the latest September. So a year. I'd like to publish my next book between July and September this year. And to then actually sell that book, I need to have an audience. And so my goal now is to have built my email list to 1,000 email, because these big authors that make, sell millions of books, they've got followings. They often start, they 4 or 5 years into their writing journey, with an audience of 10,000, 100,000 more followers, So it's not a quick fix. I don't think you can just go, I've got a good idea, I'll stick it down on paper and everyone will buy it. Well, nobody will buy it because they don't know you're there. So you've got to work, like I say, you've got to look at that end goal. If you want to sell the book, well, move all the way back to today and go, well, how would I sell that book? Well, I've got to tell someone about it. Well, who are these people I'm telling? Where are they? You got to start building an audience.
That's so true, Lorraine. Yeah, building an email list is something that even I figured out after publishing my first book, that it's so important. And by asking that question, I didn't mean to scare any of our listeners. So just to reiterate, it's like any other investment. When you're investing upfront, the returns would flow in subsequently. And it's the same with a book. You invest upfront to write, format, design, everything, market it, and the investment of that pays off in months and years to come. So it can be like even 10, 20 years after you publish a book that you could still keep earning. And just as a quick minute, just to mention about this, there are multiple ways you could look to monetize based on that book. You could translate it into different languages. You could convert that book into like a source of authority for yourself, where you can then sell other stuff. You can have your own website. You can sell it directly. I know Amazon takes a huge cut in terms of royalty. You can sell it in multiple platforms like Lulu Publishing, Ingram Spark. There are multiple other platforms as well, and Amazon is not the only one, although they are the largest. You can also have an audible version of it. So yeah, there are many ways, but of course that starting point is a bit heavy in terms of investment. But once you start there and start diversifying your book into other streams of income, it then becomes much less burdensome on your pocket, and you'll start covering that investment. So just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, all of that's really good. Yeah, I have invested a lot of money, but in terms of the budget, I'm keeping track of every cent that I spend on my book. When I go to the island, I go to the local islands offshore to go write my books and do my outlines and things. I keep a track of everything I spend on the book. I can't actually literally at this stage claim anything of that back in terms of tax, because I have no income out of my book just yet. But yeah, you've got to put in the money to get moving, and you've got to keep going. There's no point you spend all that money and then you end up not even publishing the book. So
Yeah,
there's lots of blocks that writers experience and go, oh, I'm not good enough, and oh, nobody's going to want my book. You just got to get past it. Otherwise,
Totally.
yeah. And I think also what you were saying about the different venue or avenues of publishing, the world's changing so fast with AI that I think you've got to really get your head around what you're going to do and how you're going to approach that issue. And the other one's the audio books. I really do think that we are just moving into a world of audio rather than written. People my age, we all have got a real book in our hand, right? Piece of paper. But the young people now, and that's just coming from my teaching high school students, that generation are literally not, they don't write stuff anymore. They literally only speak. So everything they do is verbal, and they'll just listen. So the idea of having a printed book versus an audio book, you are probably better off getting yourself organized to be set up for audio books, which is a shift for writers who have always been focused on the paper version of their book. But I think audio is taking over. It's just growing exponentially.
That's if you see the growth of Audible over the last few years, it's been tremendous, and I think that's the fastest growing area, whilst book sales actually has come down significantly, especially during the last year with the advent of AI, which you also brought in. So that brings me nicely to the next question, Lorraine. What are your thoughts on AI? I mean, now people are also writing books using AI, and there's like a whole flood of books, some good, some not so good. What are your thoughts of writing books using AI?
Time is coming sooner rather than later where the reader will be demanding to know how much of your book was written by you and how much was written by AI. So just talking again as with my teaching hat on, we now have a policy for our students where they have 5 levels. Level number 1 means, what are you talking about? Never heard of AI. Okay, so the student did everything themselves, although that's nearly impossible. And then up to level 5, which basically said, I put a prompt into AI and here's my response. I didn't even look at it. So some people are writing books like number 5, okay, and some people are still writing books at number 1, where they just go, no, AI, no, never going to touch that. So I think you've got to find a happy medium in the middle somewhere, because if you don't actually understand what AI is designed to do, you can't use that tool to your advantage. So my opinion is that artificial intelligence, something like ChatGPT, is a large learning model. That's what it is. It's got to do with, large language model. It's got to do with language. So it's a way to improve on what you have. So the way I use it, I'm old school. I literally would go to the island and write my book on a piece of paper. I then take my paper and I convert it I get ChatGPT to transcribe my written documents into a Word document, word by word. Not allowed to edit anything. It's not allowed to even fix a spelling mistake I've made in my Word document. So then I have a digital copy, and then I would print that and read it, and then I'd edit it again on paper and fix things. And I go through that process quite a few times, and that I call that my rough draft. Once my rough draft is finished, I then will be looking at sections of the book and saying to ChatGPT, where's the scientific evidence to support this information that I've written here? And then I will get ChatGPT to give me the scientific evidence from all the scientific journals, and I will then go and read those journals. I'll pick the ones that I want to use, and I will read those scientific journals and then use the information there to supplement my book. So that's how I use ChatGPT. I do use it also for sentence construction stuff. So I might put a paragraph in and say, something just doesn't flow and it will help me with that. But in the end, if you read my How to Run Happy book, which is I didn't do a lot of scientific evidence stuff in there, but that's how I wrote that book, and that's how I'm writing my current book. If you read that book and you can't find my voice, which is what you hear now is my voice, this is what my book sounds like. I'm not a very complicated person, I'm not going. I haven't got fancy words. English is my second language. I don't have any fancy words to tell you, weird stuff. It's just literally just what comes out of my mouth goes onto my paper, and then I try and wiggle it a bit so it sounds better. And so I think people are getting tired of. I think the hype of Chat GPT has now passed, and it's now settling, which is quite nice. It was a little bit, over the top, which is normal for new technology. But I think we're getting into a phase now where it's starting to level out, and people are getting their understanding what's going on and deciding what they want. But I do find it annoys me when I read something and I know it's generated by ChatGPT, because I teach and my students cheat and use it all the time. They've got no clue how to use it, right? I use it all the time in my teaching, but I'm an expert in teaching. I'm an expert in my subject that I'm teaching. So when I use something from ChatGPT, it's been heavily edited for what I know I can use, where the student doesn't. So they'll provide me with a task, and I go, what are you talking about? I don't know what doesn't make any sense. Did you read this stuff? Do you know what's going on there? So, when I read something from anywhere, even emails, I'm on a lot of email lists. If I get an email from someone and it's just all generated with ChatGPT, I'm not interested. I unsubscribe, because to me that is, people are just getting tired of just not stuff that's not real. I don't know if you agree with that.
For sharing all of that, Lorraine. So I do it a bit differently too. So basically, when I'm writing a book, I spend the initial bit whole on research. I do a ton of research, even on competitor books. Just go through the Amazon negative reviews, identify what's missing, what's good, what's not, so that I can improve it on my book and have a significantly better book. And then once I've decided on that core outline in terms of the topic, the chapter outlines, I basically record myself. So basically, I dictate it, and then I transcribe it so that I don't have to type it, write it myself. Initially, I used to write it, but then I got too tired of it in the first few chapters. So I found this very fast, very quick. So for anyone who's interested, this is another option in addition to what Lorraine mentioned. So you can try it out, record it even on Word or even on Google Doc. You can click the dictation button and then start recording it. It's so easy. So anyone who's thinking writing a book is tough, no, it isn't. There are various options depending on your preference and choice. You just have to put your mind to it, be disciplined, and just go about it. All right, we're coming to the end of the podcast, Lauren. Before I ask you for any final thoughts, just wanted to know, you just mentioned that English is your second language. Out of curiosity, what's your first language?
I'm from South Africa originally. We just celebrated our 30th year in Australia, so I've been here for a while. But I grew up in South Africa, so my first language is Afrikaans, which is a Dutch-derived language. So the sentence construction between Afrikaans or Dutch is much different from English. So, yeah, I still get my E's and R's wrong. Like, for goodness sake, how long does this take? But what that does is that when I do write someone an email or I do write my book or something, I'm absolutely pedantic about getting it right. I'm probably putting more effort than many English speakers, especially my writing. People will go, "Oh, that's very nice, well done," and I go, "Yeah, because I had to work at it. It didn't come for free." So yeah, putting the effort in into getting the language is it was worth the while. Yeah, I'm pretty proficient now. I still sound like a South African, even though I've been in Australia forever. So I'm on this, like, I don't know, this twilight zone of, I go to South Africa and everyone goes, "Oh, you sound just like an Aussie," and I go, "No, I don't." and sending soap in your mouth in Australia, and everyone goes, "Oh, you're from South Africa." I go, "Yes, I am." So yeah.
Yes. All right. So beyond work, beyond your side hustles, and beyond the serious stuff, what are some of your hobbies that you like to spend time with?
Make baby quilts. I don't know if that means anything to you, but someone says I'm having a baby, and I go, "Oh, you're getting a baby quilt." So I sew these baby. They called quick quilts using like a log cabin design. So it literally takes me 1 day to make the baby quilt. It's about a meter by a meter. It's not very big. So I do those, which is a nice time out. I'll be listening to a podcast or an audio book while I'm sewing. And I do ultra running, although I'm a little bit out of the running at the moment. I'm having a bit of a rest. So I like to go to the gym. I can probably, if I can call myself a gym junkie, I would, because I love the gym. And I love running, getting outside, just in nature. I do a lot of travel. I do a lot of big bulk travels. So I've been to Scotland. I took 10 weeks, I think, unpaid leave, and I went to Scotland and I ran an ultra marathon over there. This was for my 50th birthday. Did 800 kilometers in 4 days or 5 days or something, or 400 kilometers in 8 days. Let me get that right. And then when I turned 55, I decided, time to go for another long trip. So I went into ice. I did hiking around Iceland, Canada, America. I hiked the Grand Canyon rim to rim. That you've heard of that. Started the one rim of the Grand Canyon. You go all the way down and come up the other side. So I did the rim to rim in the Grand Canyon. So I do like to organize myself. So I like to have an end goal and decide what I'd like to do. And then I just work backwards, and depends what I'm trying to do, how long that is. So that Iceland, Canada, America hiking trip, that I probably spent about a year planning that. And again, now coming up is I call it my sabbatical. So I'm on what's called a deferred salary scheme, where I work for 4 years at a reduced salary. And the 5th year, I get the entire year off, and the education department just dumps money into my bank account every fortnight, same as what I'm earning now. So I just think that's like the best deal ever. So I've got this sabbatical coming up in 2028, and that's a full year. And I'd like to do a world trip, book tour, and also some in Australia. So in order for me in 2028 to do a book tour, I actually have to have some books lined up. So that motivates me then to get my books written, get them published, build my audience, etc. And so, yes, I do a lot of planning. I love planning. I spend my life planning. But I find that if you invest that time in planning, then when the event happens, you're actually having a great time, because you're not all distressed and you don't know what's going on. You don't know. It all just flows really nicely. So yeah, I like traveling and writing, probably. Yeah.
Failing to plan is planning to fail, they say. So, how how can anyone get in touch with you, Lorraine, to either purchase your book or to get in touch with you just to have a conversation, have a chat, to learn something from you?
Yeah, probably the easiest is just to go on my website and sign on to my email list, because then you'll get anything that I send out to my audience. Lorraine Lawson author.com is the website name, and then all my social handles, just about all my social handles, is the same. So if you're on LinkedIn and you go Lorraine Lawson author, you'll find me there. Same with Facebook and Instagram. Yeah, it's pretty much the same everywhere.
All those links you mentioned, Lauren, along with your website and email, will be mentioned in the show notes. So feel free to download them. And yeah, you'll find them incredibly useful. Aside to a summary of this entire podcast episode, you'll also have all those links mentioned there. This was an absolute incredibly useful session, Lorraine. I'm sure our audience will find it super useful. There were tons of important things that you mentioned, from being organized to focusing on your financials to staying disciplined, just consistently following through. From the time that you got the idea, you just took action, and there was a ton of things I think that any one of us can emulate and start achieving results. So thank you very much, Lauren. This was it was an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. I'm doing this after a while. I've not been doing the podcast for a few months. I had the summit in October, but ever since I've been engaged in managing multiple other things. So thank you very much for coming in, and I wish you all the best. I'm sure you'll crush it with your next book as well.